Hi, everyone. This is Hal Krosman with Screenwriting U, and today we're going to be analyzing The Walking Dead through the binge-worthy TV model. So, my guess is all of you have seen this show. Even the critics of this show have to acknowledge that the show has been on the air for more than most shows ever even have a chance at thinking about. When you take a new show into Netflix or any other network right now, they're going to ask you to lay out 5 seasons. If it makes it past the second, they're amazed. So this isn't just a small thing. There's something amazing that's happened here. And while I'm not convinced that some of the seasons are the best they possibly could be, I'd like to go back to the very first one and talk about what does it take to actually have somebody succeed at getting a show on the air. So let me just give credit to where credit belongs first. Let's see. The Walking Dead was nominated for the Writers Guild of America for a new series award when it first came out. It was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Television Series in the drama category. According to the Nielsen ratings, The Walking Dead attracted more 18 to 49-year-old viewers than any other cable or broadcast TV series. Now that's impressive, right? Let's see. It's a horror drama. These are just minor details along the way, but they're kind of important. It was developed by Frank Darabont and Angela King, produced by Gail Ann Hurd and Frank Darabont, and the comic book was by Robert Kirkman, Tony Moore, and Charlie Adlard. So a lot of the success of this show obviously points back to the comic book. They did a great job. They knew what they were doing. They built an amazing audience of raving fans and all of that kind of thing. But I'm going to tell you, they used a lot of the skills we're going to be talking about today. If you want to see this show, by the way, most of you already know this, but you can see it on iTunes. You can see it on Netflix. You can go back and watch any of the episodes on either one of those. So what I want to do today is focus on something that I think is incredibly important in creating success. And if you got your handout in front of you there, we're going to be asking a couple of questions. The big mystery here, and please write this down, the big mystery here is, how do you resurrect a genre that is dead? How do you resurrect a genre that is dead? Because at the point that this show came out, this genre was pretty much considered dead. My wife and I were producing partners, and we were pitching at that time. We brought in a couple of vampire projects and a zombie project. And they'd already had Twilight 1, 2, and 3 was about to come out at the point at which this show came out, and nobody was willing to even listen to those pitches. Right? So there's something very special about this. People had had enough of vampires, they'd had enough of zombies, and yet somehow they got this in front of audiences, and it was a runaway success from the very beginning. Let me tell you how far this goes, because you really need to know this. I'd seen 5 seasons. I sat down to watch the pilot, in order to do a quick analysis of it, and it was an interesting thing. This was about 8 p.m., 9 p.m. at night, and as I was watching that, it took me a little longer than normal because I'm writing notes and all of that kind of thing. But when I got to the end, I had to watch the next episode, even though I already knew what was there. And then I had to watch the next episode, and then the next one. And before I knew it, I had watched 5 of the episodes, and I was completely exhausted. Now, the reason I'm telling you that is because that's the difference between a normal show versus a binge-worthy show. Sometimes people tell me, this weekend I'm going to binge watch, and then they name off a normal show, an episodic show. And they had chosen They've chosen they're going to watch 8 or 10 episodes or a whole season or whatever they're going to do. This is a different thing. This wasn't something where I chose it. And anytime you see a great binge watchable show, here's the key difference. You can't help it. You have to watch the next episode. Now, you guys know what I'm talking about. Whether you're talking about this show or any other binge-worthy show, if you're watching a show like that, and even if you need to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and it's already midnight, when that cliffhanger shows, you just know you need to watch the next episode. And now you're starting to give up hours of nighttime, hours of sleep, in order to keep watching. We had one situation where we had to get up at 6, and we ended up watching a show all the way till 3:30 in the morning, just because it was done so well. So let me just say, and this is important, please write this down right beneath that big mystery there. Today, while it's about Walking Dead, it's actually about you writing a great show. This is what we're talking about today. We're talking about you writing a great show. So the question is, what can we learn from The Walking Dead that will help you with your show? Right? That's what this whole thing is about. If you've got that, if every time you watch one of these shows, you're focused on that, what is it that I'm learning while watching this show that is going to change my show, that's going to elevate it? Now, by the way, just to be clear, I am not talking about knocking off The Walking Dead or Game of Thrones or any of the other shows. That's a strategy that pretty much doesn't work, especially when you have a major leader out there. Everybody's going to say, oh, my God, you just did another Walking Dead. Don't do that. What I'm talking about is you being so good at this that you can create anything, and you can create it at the level at which this show and the other shows like Game of Thrones or The Americans or all the other binge-worthy shows, that you can create at that level, and so you stand out from the pack of all the other writers that come in the door. So let me tell you what we're going to do today. First, we're going to go through this 5-star model. If you can go to page 2, we're going to go through this 5-star model for creating binge-worthy TV shows. The reason I'm going to give you that is because that's what I'm going to base my analysis on right now. Then we'll do the analysis of The Walking Dead, and then I'll give you a quick explanation of the TV boot camp program on creating binge-worthy TV. And for those of you who really want to master this and to be able to write at the same level as these people, that program is the way to do it. And you'll see what I'm talking about as we get into it. So let's take a look here at page 2 and start with the model. You'll notice we got 5 categories. Now, we're not talking about everything that goes into a show, right? I'm not going to talk to you today about how do you write better description or how do you create better structure or all the basic stuff. What I'm going to talk to you today about is some of the really advanced stuff that makes the difference as to whether or not your show gets considered. So the first thing, number 1 at the top, please put the words big picture hooks. Big picture hooks. By the way, I would say this is missing from about 90% of the shows that come into town. People write pilots about shows and they don't have a strong hook. So big picture hook means it's got a great concept that instantly engages us. It's got a unique world or subworld that we really truly want to explore, right? It's got an engaging journey that we are compelled to go on, and we can't stop thinking about it, right? If you've got that, you've got to start. Now let's go to number 2 on the left-hand side. Number 2, put the words intriguing character. Now listen, everybody knows how to create a character. Everybody. I know 8-year-old kids who know how to create characters. This isn't about that. This is about truly intriguing characters. Most of the time when people create a character, there's the surface level. We see what they're doing on the surface, right? They got a job, they do these things, they're married to that person, here's what they're doing in the plot, blah, blah, blah. Then there's the under the surface level where it's like we're perceiving that they're upset, they're angry, they've got, they're trying to do something and they're frustrated, it's not working, right? We're perceiving what's going on for them emotionally under the surface. What I'm talking about on the intriguing characters is that there is more hidden than obvious, right? There is more hidden than somebody's aware of. And so, what I mean by that is there's secrets underneath the surface, right? There's layers to that character that we're not seeing right now, but suspecting. There are moral issues. There are boundaries that they're about to step over. There's a level of unpredictability that comes from there's something else about that character we don't know. So I'm saying you take the two levels most people are writing on. I'm saying there's a third level beneath that surface that is more important than what's above it. And if you got that, if you're really writing at that third level, almost anybody who reads your show is going to be constantly surprised, constantly engaged in these characters, and is going to go on the journey with them because there's something very different about them that they need to find out. Number 3, right-hand side, put the words empathy, distress. Empathy, distress. This replaces likability. So if you have spent a lot of time trying to make your characters likable, one of the big issues that I think most people have is they end up with lead characters that are boring. And you guys may have experienced this before. I've had people a lot of times tell me I'm really great at the supporting characters. My supporting characters are amazing. And then if I ask them, then we'll find out that their lead characters are somewhat dull. Because the lead characters have so many boundaries around them because they're trying to make them likable. You don't have to do that anymore. Likability is no longer the primary tool you use. In fact, it's just a tool. That doesn't mean that you don't make some characters likable. You can choose to do that at any time, right? But this goes way beyond that. So empathy distress means that you're creating an internal experience for the audience of constantly worrying about these characters. There can be characters that we really dislike, but we're worried about them, so we're emotionally involved with them, right? This gives you the chance to be able to create anti-heroes that the audience is engaged with even more than the characters they, quote, like. So that's pretty important. So empathy basically, well, let me go to distress first. Part of the way you do this is you continually create distressful situations that the audience says, oh my God, that character's in such a terrible spot, right? And it's done in a way that creates empathy, because there are times where you put a character they hate in a bad spot, and they'll be cheering for that character to die. But we're talking about kind of the opposite. It's like the character's in a distressing spot and the audience cares, right? And they worry about it and they feel for that character. They feel empathy. They essentially are experiencing what that character is experiencing, and they are living it. You may have had this experience. I was sitting here working on something 2 days ago, and I just noticed the whole time I'm worried about the characters on a show that I've been binge watching. And it's like, wow, that's really interesting. I haven't watched anything that day at all. It was from the night before, but I'm actually concerned about them like they're real people. And it's because of this. There's a whole model for how to do this. We might talk about it in a little bit. Let's go to number 4. Layers and open loops. Layers and open loops. So I'll just talk about the layers for the moment. When you have multiple layers, that means there are things going on under the surface that we don't know, and then at some point they're revealed to us, and the moment they're revealed, we suddenly rethink everything. All the stuff that's happened up to this point has a different meaning, right? And the simple example is, wow, you've got these people, they're trying to do certain things, whatever it is, and we suddenly find out they're not people at all, they're actually aliens from another planet. Now, that's just a ridiculous example, but I want you to notice, the moment you know they're aliens from another planet, you rethink what they've gone through, right? Why are they trying to get into politics? Oh, they're trying to get control of this planet. And all these steps that they've taken, they've all come from their instructions from someplace else. Again, a ridiculous example, but that's a layer, right? Suddenly something's been revealed, and we now see a different meaning to everything that's happened up till now. So anytime you can reveal a new layer, you re-engage your audience, right? There's also this whole thing about open loops. Again, we may talk about that in a little bit, but let's go to number 5. Number 5, please put the words inviting obsession. Inviting obsession. So this is one of the big keys. This is something that changes everything for a writer. If you can create the kind of experiences that causes people to be obsessed about your writing, and this is whether you're working with novels, right, short stories, doing web series, writing features, writing TV, whatever it is, if you can get them obsessed, you know what? You're going to ultimately have a pretty strong fan base, and that may make a big difference in your career. So this is about creating the mysteries that can only be solved by further investigation in future episodes. It's also about creating questions about the future that, again, can only be solved by us watching the future episodes. When we get to the end of that episode, right, like when I was watching this and I got to the end of it, it's not just the cliffhanger that moves me forward. Because there have been lots of shows that we get to the end, there's a cliffhanger, it wasn't set up really, really well, especially you go back 10, 15 years looking at some of the shows from back that period of time. You know what? You get to the end and it'd be like, it's out of my mind inside of a couple of minutes. There's a difference when you're doing the things that create obsession, which means it's not just the cliffhanger that moves us forward. It's all the other questions that have been created. It's the other mysteries that have been created. It's the empathy distress. It's all the things that have caused us to absolutely need to go to the next episode. Now, in my opinion, our job as writers is to become amazing at doing that. So, let's go into The Walking Dead, and now we'll see how this model shows up in The Walking Dead. So let's see. Where do I start here? Okay, all right. Let's just start with big picture hooks. The high concept of The Walking Dead. Sheriff Deputy Rick Grimes wakes up from a coma and learns that the world has been overrun by zombies/walkers, and he must lead a group of survivors to stay alive. Right? So it's a pretty strong concept. Could be a little better, but it's pretty strong. What's most amazing about this is that they lured us back into the zombie genre. Even if you were at a point where you're done watching zombie movies. I don't watch zombie movies. I don't like zombie movies. But what they did was they put us in the shoes of someone who woke up and discovered something had happened, and one step at a time, he's discovering it, right? He's discovering it piece by piece by piece. It causes us as an audience to feel like we're part of this strange new world, right? This is something that we start to feel like, oh my God, this could really happen. Now, whether or not you experienced it that way or not, if you watched more than a couple of episodes of this show, somewhere along the way you bought in. And it's an interesting thing to me. It's like, the first time I watched it, which was years ago when it first came out, my first thought was, when I saw the girl being killed in the beginning, it's like, oh no, this really is what I thought it was. This is a zombie show. But by the time we went through that whole period of living his life as he was discovering it step by step, I was hooked. Now, let me say one other thing. A lot of times people start out the first episode and they feel like they have to give us everything about the world. I've seen scripts where they've come in and the first 4 pages nonstop were description of the world and telling us all the rules and everything else. This show does a great job of showing you that you don't have to do that, right? We get it step by step, little piece by little piece. We're discovering it as he's discovering it. We're finding out the rules by making mistakes with him, right? So by the time you learn enough about the world by about halfway through the first episode to be able to go, oh my God, this is what's going on. Then they continue to give you more and more and more about the world with every single episode. So just keep that in mind for the future. You don't have to tell us the whole world up front. Let me just continue on. So their world, by the way, their intriguing world, it's a dangerous world. It's unpredictable. It's overwhelming. How did these walkers overrun the military? And didn't you have that question at the very beginning? When you get to Atlanta, it's like here's the military with tanks and guns and weapons and everything else, and yet the walkers have taken them out completely. So it's a dangerous place. This also creates fantasy fulfillment, right? For anybody who's ever played, a video game where you're getting to shoot monsters and stuff like that, this creates the fantasy fulfillment for that. But it calls to a special audience also, and that is the survival preppers. So these people who are preparing for the doomsday future, whichever way it comes, they get to watch this as a fulfillment of that dream, right? They get to watch this so that they can experience their survival skills actually at work. So it was interesting. It didn't just call to the comic audience. It also called to that audience, and then it brought a lot more of us in who weren't part of either of those two audiences. From an intriguing character perspective, think about the roles here. These are some amazing roles for actors. If you think about it, the actor gets to be a survivalist, right? They get to do that whole thing. They get to face zombies. They get to kill hundreds of zombies. They get to be killed by a zombie. They get to overcome constant danger, and they get to experience or express an extreme range of emotions, right? And for an actor, that kind of role is a dream. We get to see their whole range. We get to see them dealing with things people normally wouldn't deal with. It's wild. Let me go to a couple of the characters. Rick, this is the deputy who always does the right thing, even if it puts himself or his family in danger. It's not just that's going on. He also has no idea what has happened between his partner, Shane, and his wife, Lori. He's responsible to take care of this group because deep inside, that's what he knows his purpose is, and he can't stop himself from doing that. He's constantly having to deal with the emotional problems that creates for some of the people around him. Let's go to Shane for a moment. Shane thought his partner Rick was dead, as part of this. So he's gone through that pain. But then he slept with Rick's wife, Lori, and fell in love, only to find out that Rick's alive, and now Lori hates him for tricking him, right? So they've set up a really interesting triangle here. It's not just a love triangle. It's a guilt-ridden love triangle. And Lori is racked with guilt. She is someone who has a love-hate relationship with both men, but she's having to choose one over the other. On top of that, she's a very, very strong woman who many times she's the only voice of reason in the situation. Many times she sees things clearly when they don't. So excellent character. The other thing that they did for intriguing character was they created a lot of undeserved misfortune. And the truth is every character we're seeing has gone through some kind of undeserved misfortune. They've lost their homes, they've lost their family, they've lost everything they thought their lives were about. Now they're living in a tent someplace in constant fear of zombies. That's pretty bad. Rick, on the other hand, we got to experience his undeserved misfortune. He wakes up in a coma, discovers the world's been overrun by zombies. He has no idea where his family is or if they're alive. He's got to keep himself alive in order to find them, to hopefully keep them alive if they're alive. So we root for him as he is searching for his wife and his child, and as he is trying to lead this group to whatever it takes to survive. There are relationship hooks built into this, and this is a very important part of creating a story like this. It's not just the characters. Like, a lot of people just focus just on the characters. It's the relationships. The relationships are just as important as the characters. Like, if you look and you see Rick standing there and Lori is standing between him and Shane, right? We're not just seeing three characters. We're seeing a relationship. We're worried about things like, when is Rick going to find out? And what's he going to do when he finds out? What's it going to do to the other two, right? We're worried about Shane, who is sitting there and wants to have a relationship with this woman, but it's the wrong thing to do, and he knows it, and he knows he did this terrible thing, right? So we're worried about how that relationship goes together and what's going to happen when this secret breaks. If you look at Dwayne and Morgan, so this was the African-American man and his son who were, who first found Rick in the very beginning. Dwayne's wife, Morgan's mother, is out there. She's a walker. And there's still a relationship between the three of them. She keeps coming up to that door. It's like somehow some part of her knows. And this is something else that they did that was amazing. They created empathy for the zombies in that situation by having us realize that, somehow they recognize their family, right? It's like, so that there's this whole thing about Dwayne needs to put her down in order to stop her suffering, but he can't. And what's going to happen out of that? And I don't want to give a spoiler alert, but I'll tell you later on something really bad happens because of it. There's Daryl and his brother. And his brother was left on the top of a building in Atlanta, handcuffed to a rail, can't get away, or handcuffed to a pipe, can't get away, and now he has to make this terrible decision, which brings us to the dilemmas. This show is filled with emotional dilemmas. And it's like, having people have to make choices is one thing. But when people are having to make choices like, do they cut off their hand in order to keep from getting eaten by a zombie, it's like, wow, that's a serious choice. That's a tough situation. If you look at it, almost every decision that they make could cause them or others to die. And if they die, by the way, it's not over for them. The suffering continues because now they're zombies. Sometimes they have to kill people that they love. And you'll see this multiple times in there where somebody in the group gets scratched or bitten, and suddenly they are, you know what, they're on the way to being a zombie. And now there's conversations in the group. Do we kill them now? Do we wait until they die and then kill them? You know, kill them again, as in shoot them in the head. What do we do? And when one of them dies and the sister isn't willing to let it go and sits there and watches her sister transform into a zombie, it's like everybody is thinking, "Oh my God, you know, what do we do here? Do we, you know, she's mourning, but we've got to kill this thing." It's really tough to watch, and this is part of how they created so much of that empathy distress, which is now what we'd like to talk about. You know, if you look at it, this show has nonstop empathy distress. You know, Rick was shot in one of the early scenes. And it hit his bulletproof vest, and when he turns and says, "Don't tell Lori about this," he gets shot in the side and misses the bulletproof vest, and now he's in real trouble. The whole waking up in a coma, that's some serious distress. All the dead bodies, the abandoned hospital, barely being able to walk, right? His wife and son are gone. He's been abducted by this man and his son and tied to the bed, right? This is all in like the first 20 minutes of this show, and it never stops from that point on. So they are constantly putting us in these difficult situations. You know, there's death all around them, and death is coming for them. So it's just a question of when is it going to happen. This is an incredibly hopeless situation, and yet somehow they have to maintain hope. Now, let's talk a little bit about the layers here for a second. Here, let me just go to, instead of layers, let me go to irony. This show has an incredible irony built in all over the place. You know, and if you didn't notice it, it's really worth noticing. So let me just give you a few. In the opening scene, we've got a deputy with a gun who is used to facing people. It's like he's used to facing grown men and arresting them and all that kind of thing. And suddenly we're in a situation where he is afraid of a little girl. And I think they did that pretty well, right? Set it up. He's trying to help her be safe. Honey, you're going to be safe. And then suddenly he's not safe. And it's ironic. We've got the relationship that happens between Lori and Shane. They sleep together because they both think that Rick is dead. And it turns out that the whole thing happened because of a mistake. And by the way, now she hates the person who has just saved her life and saved, her son's life, right? So there's that irony also. When they go to the CDC, right, the place that's supposed to find a cure for this, it should be the place of ultimate hope, and they're really hoping that they can get there and that it will change things. And they get inside and find out that the only person who is alive there believes they all should die. Right? So once again, we've got irony set up and done really well. Then, at the end of that, he whispers something in Rick's ear, which I don't think we find out for a couple of seasons. But once we find out, what did he whisper in his ear right before he was going to die? What was that important? And it turns out that every human has this virus inside them. So they're all going to turn into zombies no matter what, right? Which, again, is ironic. It also creates a future. It creates a lot of pain and a lot of worry. Last one I'll tell you here on this is in Season 3, trying to get to a place that's safe, they end up finding a prison. And now the prison, the place most people are spending their life trying to break out of, is the place they have to break into, because it's the only place that is truly safe for them, that is contained enough and strong enough to keep the zombies away. These kinds of things make a big difference. So, now let's talk about inviting obsession here just for a second. Look at the mysteries in this situation. First, what happened? What actually happened here while he was in a coma? What happened? I don't know when we find that out. I can't remember. I'm sorry, I can't give you that answer. But something serious happened, and they're constantly searching for the answer to that. They're trying to figure out what happened and what's the cause, because maybe that will tell them how to solve it. And that mystery is there for multiple seasons. How do we survive? And I would say, as many seasons as I've watched, which was 5, they're still trying to understand that. They're barely making it many times. They're teaming up with other groups and suddenly finding that the humans are just as bad as the zombies. No matter what they do, they're barely on the edge of survival the entire time. How do they actually survive, and how do we as a species survive? The other mystery that's created is who's alive and who isn't. And step by step, we start to find that out. And then how do you live in this kind of environment? Right? So there's these questions all over the place that aren't being answered. And then there's the other questions, which is, how do I find my loved ones? If we go to that town, if we go to Atlanta, is it going to be safe? If we go someplace else, where are the safe areas? And then just in general, are they going to survive? So this is filled with questions that keep us coming back and keep us worrying about what actually is going on and what's going to happen. So
for everything we've talked about, you're starting to see many different ways to create intrigue and engagement with an audience. The truth is we're in a very different world than we were 10 years ago, both for audiences, but even more important for this industry. In the last year, we have seen streaming platforms become more successful than the TV networks. ABC, NBC, and CBS are being outdone by Netflix, and soon they'll be outdone by the other streamers. And those streamers value binge-worthy TV shows highly. Here's why. First, it increases their subscriber base, and that means it makes them more money. But it also creates buzz about their platform, which increases their chance to do all the things that they've wanted to do. So it really would be very smart of you to master this new model. And the better you become at these skills, the more likely that you'll succeed. You've seen the start of this major paradigm shift in the TV industry, so you want to join that shift as early as possible so that you can still get in. Many of the streamers right now are still wide open markets, so there really is an opportunity there. If you can stay with me for about 5 minutes, I'll walk you through the program that will shift everything for you and will give you a real advantage coming into the streaming platforms. If you master these skills, you're going to have 2 results. First, it's going to be a lot easier to get in the door to producers. And second, when producers look at your project, they're going to see that as something that really does give them the potential to make their career more successful. Now, we have 2 money-back guarantees. I'll talk with you about those in a few minutes. But first, let me just kind of walk you through what this class is about. Module 1, how do you make the 50 most important decisions in your show? Let me be straight with you. Most people, what they do is they come up with an idea, and then they just go straight to writing a pilot. And because of that, they end up missing the majority of these decisions that really could make them successful. These 50 decisions, and this is what happens in Module 1, you make these decisions. These are the things that not only makes your show exceptional, but makes it much more marketable and gives it a much better chance of success. These are the things that makes your show great. They're the things that when everybody talks about what an amazing show someone has, they're almost always referring back to those 50 most important decisions. So you're going to master those in Module 1. You're going to make those decisions as you are going through Module 1. Then we go into Module 2, where you create your TV pitch Bible. This isn't just a story document. It's a marketing document. It's what you use to sell your show. And with the new streaming platforms, this document has changed quite a bit in the last few years. In fact, most of the, quote, example TV Bibles that are floating around online right now, those are all old. And let me just tell you up front, you want to be careful when you look at one of those and you model things off of it, because most of those won't get you in the doors you want to get in. Our TV Pitch Bible comes from talking with producers, from talking with showrunners, and especially from talking with funding sources. And what we were looking for was exactly what do they need in that TV show Bible in order to consider making a show. So again, your TV show Bible will be filled with the 50 most important decisions you made in Module 1, but it will also be an amazing piece of writing. Our objective is this. If a producer picks it up and opens to any page and they just glance at a few sentences, they will instantly be intrigued. And that's the way we want it all the way through that entire TV Pitch Bible. Any 2 sentences they look at, engage them, and because of that, they read the entire thing, right? But by the way, not only that, but they also see you as a pro. Then we go into Module 3 and 4, where you're going to write the pilot. But we don't just jump in and write without thinking. Instead, we do it much like a TV writer's room. So Module 3 is all about how do you create this incredibly intriguing and complex outline that ultimately will make it easy for you to write an amazing pilot. So when we get into Module 4, then you are actually writing the pilot. But let me just tell you a few of the things that we focus on as we're doing this. To us, it's not just about writing something as if you're writing like a feature or something like that. This is about you're going to be delivering on multiple layers, multiple different levels of what this show is about. So we need to hook them with the concept, not just have them experience it. We need to launch the journey into the entire series. We need to engage them deeply into the future of those characters. We need them worrying about your characters. We need them wondering. We need them constantly thinking about and wanting to live the journey those characters go on. We need to intrigue the audience in multiple ways in this pilot so that they will want to watch every single episode, and we need to cause them to make the decision that this is the show they're going to watch. They're going to watch every episode, and they're going to tell all their friends about it. So when you create your pilot, that pilot will accomplish those objectives. That's its whole purpose. Most people are just focusing on writing, and they just jump in and just kind of write without actually considering all of that. Most of the pilots that I've seen sent in from people who are not produced writers only deliver on the top 2 levels. They're missing the entire bottom 3 levels that are really, truly the most important. So by the time you're done writing this pilot, you will have a script that is better than anything you've ever written in your life. We will actually do 6 different drafts on that pilot, and you will love what you come out with. Then it's about Module 5. We're going to take it into the market. So what happens in Module 5 is we spend 15 days preparing you to market. You determine who your market is, who are you going to, how are you going to present, what kind of marketing documents are you taking in. Then the next 15 days, we will guide you through the process of you actually stepping into the market yourself and taking those actions. We make it a very safe and healthy environment that makes it as easy as possible for you to move forward. The objective isn't necessarily to make a deal in those 15 days, although some people will. The objective is to make sure that you have enough experience so that you can continue to market your show from that point on. So you can continue to build your network. So you feel comfortable going out to producers and or managers. So that you have real experience of the marketing process instead of the myths and confusion that most people are operating out of. So you'll not only market your show, but you'll get a chance to see how other people inside the group are doing that too. Because sometimes you can learn a tremendous amount from seeing how another person goes through the process and then ultimately hooks up with a producer or ends up making a deal or whatever happens from that. You'll get to see the ones who do incredibly well. You'll get to see the ones who are not having as much success because they haven't followed the model. And all of that will make a difference for you. All of that will improve your chance of success. So here's basically how the class works. It is a 6-month program where you are learning and improving as a writer with every lesson we give you. During that program, you're going to be getting lessons every other day, and I promise you there's something valuable to learn from every single one of them. By the time we're done, you'll have received 60 lessons. At the same time, we'll be doing 30 specific audio sessions that are tailored specifically for you and will help you gain a deeper understanding of the materials. You'll also be invited into monthly Q&As where you get a chance. I'll be on the phone live with you and the rest of the group, and you get a chance to ask whatever questions you have so that you really do understand and you can apply this instantly. Now, this is important. We're not just sending out a bunch of information and giving you a bunch of audios and that kind of thing. With every single one of them, your job is to instantly apply it to your project. So we will give you very specific step-by-step assignments where each day you'll take another small step. And by the time we're done, you will have taken about 150 small steps, and every one of them will make your project better. And in the end, you will have something that is better than anything you have ever written. And don't worry, everything we're doing is recorded, and it's put up on our forums so that you can listen to it at any time. At the conclusion of all of that, you will go into the market for 15 days. We will guide you through the process, as I've already said, and this is something that no other training company does. But we've had a lot of experience helping writers get really comfortable with marketing their projects. So you'll absolutely love it. On top of all of that, graduates of this program are invited into the most effective screenwriters group in the world, the Screenwriting U alumni. And what's amazing about that group really is two things. First, they are incredibly supportive of each other. And second, they are all working together to make their careers happen. So this isn't one of these places where people are hypercritical or abusive or any of those kinds of things. Instead, what you have is a very supportive group of people who help each other succeed. You're going to love it. Throughout this program, you'll be learning the most up-to-date and effective techniques for writing binge-worthy TV. In fact, the truth is, this is the only class with this amazing model, which is, at the present moment, the most requested form of television by the streaming platforms. Going through this program will easily double the quality of your writing, and all the skills you learn can easily be translated to writing novels or feature films. Many people have called this program life-changing and said things like, "It gave me my dream back." Now, having said all of that, let's be clear, no one can guarantee that anyone will get a show on the air. In fact, the truth is, even a studio exec can't guarantee it. But we do have 2 money-back guarantees because at Screenwriting U, we take really good care of our writers. So we want to make sure that you absolutely love this program. So here they are. Money back guarantee number 1. take the binge-worthy class. If in the first 5 days you don't like it for any reason, just let us know and we will immediately refund your money, no questions asked. So again, like I said, we take really good care of our writers. We want everybody to be happy. Here's money back guarantee number 2. Take the full binge-worthy class. If you post every assignment and at the end of the program don't feel that you've doubled the quality of your writing, just let us know. And after we confirm that you really have posted every assignment, we'll refund your money. Like I said, we take really good care of our writers. So let me just recap. You're going to learn to write in a way that will cause audiences to be glued to your writing. You'll actually have the most up-to-date TV model that exists. You'll be going through the only binge-worthy TV class, and by the time we're done, you're going to write the best script of your life so far, and if you choose at that point, you will take it to market. Even if you don't get a deal, ask yourself this: what will all of this do for every script you write from now on? What will it do for your confidence, your writing, and your ability to get scripts to producers and managers? As you can see, writers are raving about this program, and I think you will too. So if this is something that you want to do, if you really like to be able to create a show that really does have a chance, then just simply click on the link and join us. Or go to screenwritingu.com/classes and sign up there. By the end of this program, you'll be completely capable of writing a binge-worthy TV show, and you'll know how to get it into producers. So I hope you'll join us, and I promise you, if you do, you will love what you learn in this program. This is Hal Crosman with Screenwriting U, and I'm looking forward to working with you. Bye-bye, everyone.